Hey everyone, Amari Records here, and today I'm going to be reacting to my viewers' hot takes. A really quick thank you to everybody who submitted a take, and leave some down below if you think of a hot take during this video and I can maybe use them in a future video. And also, I respect everybody's takes because they're just your opinions and these are just mine that I'm going to discuss when I go through your takes. So yeah, just keep that in mind. No hard feelings if I rip into a take a bit, but yeah. So without further ado, let's get right into this. These come from a range of the YouTube posts that I put out and something I put on Instagram. So if you want more ways to get involved with these types of videos when I do them in the future, give the Instagram a follow. It's right there. But yeah, let's get right into it. So the majority of takes I got were either in regards to Drake, Tyler, Ye, and Eminem. So let's start with Ye. And the first take that I received is that Life of the Party is Ye's best song, or Husband. I don't think we'll talk about Husband. I think that's a little unfair because, we know this shit get out of hand. But yeah, Life of the Party being Ye's best song. I understand the take, and if it was anyone else other than Ye, I'd say yeah, I agree, because obviously the writing on that is unlike anything else you're hearing in hip-hop. It is so deep and spiritual that it just creates this euphoric listening experience. You feel the pain and the passion that is coming from both Ye and Andre 3000 in that song. It's so personal and profound, but this is Ye we're talking about. And you have songs like a Saint Pablo or a Runaway, which, yeah, the subject matter is different, but you are getting that type of very deep and profound subject matter. So I don't hate the take. Is it my personal favorite Ye song? No. But I do think it's top 10. Going off of this, the next take I got about Ye is about Donda. So this is a good segue into it. And the take is, although bloated, Donda is a top 3 Ye album. And this person has The College Dropout at 1, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy at 2, and Donda at 3. So, look, you said it yourself. Donda is bloated. There is no question in that. And yes, the highs on this album, they are arguably the best songs we've gotten from Kanye in the last 7 years. Other than stuff on Kids See Ghosts, which, by the way, that's a take that's coming up. We'll get to that in a second. But when you're looking at songs like Moon, Life of the Party, as we spoke about before, Jail, 24, Believe What I Say, Keep My Spirit Alive, these are some serious Ye tracks. Even something like an Off the Grid. The energy that Ye, Cardi, and Fabio all bring to that track, it's just it's so fucking good. And it was really refreshing to hear a different type of song like that from Ye. But at the same time, you're getting insane bloat on this album. A lot of the part 2s were redundant. You didn't need Jail Part 2 with fucking DaBaby or the Marilyn Manson stuff. I feel like that weighs down the track list already. And then you're also getting things like Remote Control and Okay Okay, and it's really, Ye? It's they're not top tier Ye songs like the rest. And I don't think you can say an album with that much bloat is top 3 Ye, especially putting it over albums like Kids See Ghost, Late Registration, and Graduation. All 3 of those albums are much more concise and have little to no filler. I'd argue that none of them have any filler. And the impact of those albums, well, Kids See Ghost is still a bit more recent, but the impact of a Graduation, what it did for pop rap, or Late Registration, bringing in all those orchestral elements, bringing in that live instrumentation to the production, I don't think they can be understated enough. Donda isn't as good as those 2 albums, and Kids See Ghost is just a lot more concise and poignant with its messaging. Although, of course, Donda has great themes in in keeping your faith and having that close relationship to God, I don't think it's as well executed as Late Registration, Graduation, or Kids See Ghost in their concepts, even though with the aforementioned 2 it's a bit looser, but still the music on those is just timeless. It's incredible. Whereas I also feel like stuff on Donda might age a bit poorly, as we're already seeing with an Okay Okay or a Remote Control. But it's not the worst take we've gotten today. And coming off of this for the final Ye take, Kids See Ghost doesn't get enough appreciation. I do see it getting appreciation, but I agree because it's a perfect album and it should be getting the same type of conversation that My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and the College Trilogy are getting. I 100% agree. Everything about that album is flawless to me. Cudi and Ye's performances, the features, Ty Dolla $ign on Freeze, just giving you these angelic vocals. Pusha T rips his verse on Feel the Love. And the subject matter is timeless and can apply to anybody going through a rough time. I 100% agree. I think Kids See Ghosts deserves to be in those top tier conversations. Alright, the next two are about Drake, and they're kind of the same thing. One of them is Drake isn't even in the top 20 best rappers, and the other is Jack Harlow is better than Drake. Now, for the Jack Harlow one, just go listen to Churchill Downs. Your answer's right there. I don't think it's a question that Drake got Jack on his own song, but not only did he get him, he spit one of his best feature verses ever. Arguably his best. The writing is a lot better. It doesn't have any cringy bars like the 100 Grand one. And you've got like really clever lines on there, like the crib is on his will like motorhomes. Great stuff from Drizzy on there. But to say Drake isn't top 20, it depends how you're looking at it. If you're just looking at like pure lyricism and, you know, like technicality of the pen, okay, I can understand why you're not going to have Drake in a conversation like that when there are Black Thoughts, Eminems, Nas's, Kendrick's, Andre 3000s, and people of that pedigree. But I think if we're taking a holistic look at what you mean by top 20 rappers, I think there is an argument for Drake to be in that like 10 to 20 range. Because look at the way he impacted hip-hop in the modern era. The impact of Take Care, I cannot understate it. That blend of more melodic and rap-centric songs, it wasn't really done before. And the way that it impacted the charts and set a precedent going forward for a lot of rappers to try more melodic performances in their songs. Like even Logic, who I know Logic is a kind of controversial person to bring up because people either love him or they hate him. But anyway, Logic credits Drake for giving him that confidence and ability to see that he can try to be more experimental and not just purely rap. But even aside from that, Drake has classics. In the aforementioned Take Care and Nothing Was the Same, I know some people consider Views a classic, and yeah, it did have huge impact, bringing in those Afrobeats kind of dancehall centric tracks with a controller and a one dance. But again, even just looking at Drake's rapping performances, I don't know how you can listen to something like A Tuscan Leather and think this guy isn't good. He has great verses, there's no denying it. And he also has the impact, and I know sales aren't everything, but when something sells that much, there's a reason, most of the time. Just Drake's impact and influence on the larger pop cultural and music landscape, it wouldn't look the same without it. I'd probably have Drake top 20, but that's just me, in my opinion. I just think his impact and what he's done, it's undeniable. You're never going to see someone have the type of impact that Drake has had again. And then the last take we've got about Drake is the singing monsters and My Singing Monsters sound better than Drake, but I don't really think that's a fair comparison because those singing monsters, like, have you heard them? They put Whitney Houston to shame. Everybody considers Whitney to have the best voice of all time. Nah, those monsters sweep anyone you can put against them. Voices of angels. So I kind of agree with that. Alright, now we got some like West Coast centric takes. Tupac is overrated. Sure, he had message, but he ain't that good of a rapper. I disagree because rapping isn't all about like the technical proficiency of your pen. The way Pac was able to inflect such emotion into his verses and his delivery, it's like nobody's really been able to replicate that or do it as good since. You're seeing his influence today, whether that be a Kendrick, a Cole. Like, I feel like every single rapper in the game is some way influenced by Tupac. Even Ye just mentioned him in his latest IG post about his vendetta against all the different fashion houses and labels and crap, but that's kind of unrelated. But still, Pac's influence is undeniable, and he was so forward thinking to a point where his ideas were able to be incorporated into an album 19 years after his death. I don't know what more there is to say. Yeah, you're right, he did have he did have message, and that's like a huge component as to what makes him such a GOAT. I don't think he's overrated. Obviously, from like a lyricism standpoint, yeah, like the technical proficiency, maybe he wasn't at the level of someone like a Biggie or a Nas from his era, but what he lacked for there, he made up for in the substance and messaging of his music. It's timeless messaging that he had in his music. I need you to understand that. That is so hard to accomplish. So I don't think Tupac is overrated. I do not agree with that take. And speaking of Kendrick, Good Kid, Mad City is better than To Pimp a Butterfly. I think they're pretty even albums. I'm not going to look at this take sideways. I think the sequencing and the way that Kendrick made a disjointed, like Tarantino-esque film with Good Kid, Mad City, like when has that been done before? Or when has a story been executed on a hip-hop album that well? I don't think we've gotten a better one since. What Kendrick did there is masterful in every sense of the word. But that's not to discredit To Pimp a Butterfly, because Kendrick's telling of the cycles that people go through and using the caterpillar and the butterfly as metaphors and allegories to describe the cycles that people go through is like, it is mind-blowing. It is probably the best written album I've ever heard, and especially how he builds on this concept throughout the entire thing, using that poem, and how every single song just ties into it perfectly, and the album's concept as a whole. The whole Lucy personification as well, and what Kendrick does with that, the Uncle Sam stuff. It's like I'm getting overwhelmed trying to explain it because I'm just going off the top of my head here. Maybe one day I can do a video breaking it down, because this album is so dense, and even 10 years later I'm still catching new things. It's insane. And the poem that he builds on throughout the album, and how it ties into this larger concept, and how every single song has a point. There is nothing on that album that doesn't belong there. Every single snare hit, every single breath and word spoken by Kendrick or any feature, everything has a purpose on that album. And that's what I think makes it so masterful. They're both equal, and really what it comes down to is just personal preference. If you prefer a more accessible and traditional soundscape, you're going to go with Good Kid, Mad City. If you prefer the jazz rap soundscape, then you're going to go to Pimp a Butterfly. And I think that's really what it comes down to. All right, next take. Nas is so overrated. None of his songs are catchy or replayable. And Tyler, the Creator, is very overrated. Just in future, I kind of want to know why you're saying this stuff. Like, you gave reason for Nas, but I'm just wondering why you're saying it for Tyler. And I feel like your points kind of contradict themselves. If Tyler's got catchy songs, how is he overrated? He has so much replay value. Just look at Chromacopia. Like, what his latest album? How are you not going back to songs like a Saint Chroma or a Ratata? They're catchy. Something like a Ratata catchy. Saint Chroma has a lot of replay value. It's so layered with the beat switches and contrast within it. But just going back to Nas, having catchy music or not having catchy music shouldn't take away from the quality of it. I don't think that can make someone overrated. Like, oh, they don't have catchy music, so they can't be considered a good artist. Like, look at Griselda or Mac Homie. You're not going to go and say, oh, no, they're bad because they don't have, their music isn't catchy and accessible. No, you're going to them for the writing, which is why most people go to Nas. But even with that being said, something like If I Ruled the World, how was that not catchy? But anyway. He's not replayable. Dude, people are still going back to Illmatic 21 years later. Crazy. An album like that is all killer, no filler. The lyrical content in those songs is so dense, you're just going to go back and keep playing it because you catch different stuff every time. But even still, and he's continued that type of profound and replayable writing with his latest run with Hit Boy. And those albums have a lot more modern and just like, it's a mix of modern and golden era production, and they sound timeless. So I don't know if you've heard those albums, but I implore you to, because you are getting some catchier songs on those. You're getting some more modern collaborators as well. A$AP Rocky's on one of them. You got him on Magic. You got Eminem. You've even got A Boogie and YG. Like, you're getting a real mix of collaborators within those albums. But I don't know, I feel like your points kind of contradict themselves, because Tyler has catchy and replayable music, and you're saying he's overrated, but then you're also saying that Nas is overrated because he doesn't have those things. That's just my take. Speaking of Tyler, someone said Cherry Bomb is a good album, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think the album does get a lot of hate. Yeah, it's very abrasive and it does sound quite brash in its nature compared to his other works, but I love opening the album with something like a Death Camp. I just feel like it gives so much energy. You're also getting some good collaborations on there with the Charlie Wilson, Kaliuchis on Find Your Wings, which is an incredibly underrated cut in Tyler's discography, and it has such a good message on it. And of course, you're getting Smuckers, which is like an all-time Tyler song, and arguably has the two best features ever on a Tyler album with Ye and Wayne. Both of their verses are incredible. The replay value on that, just that song alone, that's crazy. Just from the last take, but yeah, I agree. Cherry Bomb is a good album. All right, next take. Eminem isn't a top 5 lyricist. Kendrick, Nas, Black Thought, Mos Def, and Andre 3000 are this person's top 5. They think that they have more substance in their music, and the tricky rhyme schemes, along with vocabulary, really being out the emotion behind their words. I really respect this person's take because they gave reason for it. And your top 5, that's a great top 5. I'm not going to look sideways at that. But personally, I think Eminem is a top 5 lyricist of all time. And here's why. By the way, this is not to discredit those top 5 you've got, because I agree. They're all arguably top 10 rappers of all time, just period. And I'd have the majority of them in my top 5 lyricists as well. But here's my thing. Kendrick, who is in my top 5 lyricists, actually, he's my favorite artist of all time. Kendrick, and Cole, my favorite artists, period. So, let me just say this. Kendrick got the clarity in his writing studying Eminem, and that's a fact. He said it in an interview with Rick Rubin. So, Eminem's writing has had clear influences on people we consider GOATs in this generation and that came after him, be that a Kendrick or a J. Cole. Even someone like a Tyler has credited the Marshall Mathers LP as teaching him how to rap. He also did a freestyle, like a cypher, with Mos Def and Black Thought, and while Black Thought gave an incredible performance, I'm not denying the technicality of his rhymes and everything he was saying. I think Eminem's punchlines were a lot more effective and wittier. But that's subjective. But I just think M is able to go toe-to-toe with guys in your list, be that a Black Thought and Mos Def. Speaking of his impact, this guy's writing literally transcended hip-hop and went into the larger pop cultural landscape, inventing a new word for the English language in Stan, which had an instant effect on the game, with Nas adopting it into Ether as a diss for Jay-Z. And as I said before, obviously technicality is in everything, but he's got technicality. We've seen how proficient he has been and has remained. Just look at a verse like Fuel off the Death of Slim Shady. His use of assonance in that final verse of his, insane. It's nutty to do that when you're over 50 years old. But not that age has anything to do with skill. It's hip-hop. We've seen what Nas has done. Anyway. But I don't think you can discredit the substance that M has in his writing, because he has dealt with a wide array of topics throughout his entire career and has given you these really vivid and picturesque storytelling cuts that maybe you could only say Nas does on his level. I'd argue Eminem is the best storyteller in hip-hop. But anyway, you have been getting substance on his music from day one, looking at the struggles he was having at the time of the recording of the Slim Shady LP with songs like Rock Bottom. That type of personal writing that could really help people in a struggle has continued throughout his entire career. I think it'd be kind of crazy to say that he doesn't have substance in his music, because he's covered a wide array of topics ranging from mental health on something like Beautiful, his addiction on something like Deja Vu, going through changes and just the effect that addiction had on him. He's also got politics ranging throughout his entire career, White America, Marsh, and even more recently, gun control on Darkness, which is like this incredibly disturbing tale where you think he's rapping from his perspective, but like draws a parallel between himself and the Las Vegas shooter, which is like just nobody else is thinking like that in such a poignant and tasteful way, while also making the point as blunt as possible about gun control. But like I said before, his storytelling cuts, insanely descriptive and vivid. They make you feel like you're in the stories that he's telling. they're often larger than life. They're often extremely exaggerated, but still, you are getting those more grounded cuts from him, like an A Rose, which is this heart-wrenching tale of what he imagines would have happened if he went to the hospital 30 minutes later after his overdose. But then, of course, you're getting the disturbing Just the Two of Us from the Slim Shady EP. So he's been a master storyteller from day one. And that substance, storytelling, messaging, it's been in his music forever. I think it's kind of harsh to diminish the topics M talks about in his music, especially when they've proven to be so helpful for people, especially stuff about mental health, like myself included. But yeah, I really do respect the take, but I think M is a top 5 lyricist of all time. But that's not to discredit any of the guys you had in your top 5. And the final take, coming off of Eminem, Marshall Mathers LP2 is underrated, and I 100% agree with you. I feel like it's arguably M's most mature album other than The Eminem Show and Recovery. You're getting a really good mix of tracks on here. Beginning with Bad Guy, it's the continuation of Stan. You're seeing how the consequences of his actions kind of came back to haunt him. Anyway, aside from the connections to the original Marshall Mathers LP, some of the song concepts you're getting on here are fantastic. Looking at A Rhyme or Reason, him delving into a relationship with his dad in a way that he hasn't done before. I loved seeing him do that. Headlights is this really moving song about him making amends with his mother, and it shows you how far he's come from those past albums. Love Game as well. You're getting that one rap feature on the album, but man, is it so worth it getting Kendrick on there. That is a legendary song. And ending in Evil Twin. Evil Twin is one of his best songs from the 2010s, and it was kind of like a precursor to the death of Slim Shady. Evil Twin is incredible. His lyricism on this album, impeccable. Very, very impressive schemes on something like A Legacy. Yeah, I agree. It is an extremely underrated project. But that's the end of the video. Let me know what you guys think, and drop more hot takes down below, please. And maybe we can use those for a future video. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with any of these hot takes? Do you agree with my responses? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe and hit notifications so you don't miss any more videos. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.